Can you imagine losing someone you love, only for your grieving process to be utterly hijacked by the person who should have been your partner? That's exactly what happened to me. What started with a casual text about my boring family reunion spiraled into a jaw-dropping saga of greed, betrayal, and a $500,000 inheritance that exposed the true colors of everyone around me. 2 months ago, my girlfriend, Veronica, who's 29, flat out refused to come to my family reunion. Now, she's threatening to sue me because I won't share the $800,000 my grandmother left me. And trust me, that's just the beginning of how wild this story gets. Veronica and I had been together for almost 3 years. We'd been living together for the last 18 months in a rental house, both our names on the lease, splitting everything right down the middle. She worked in pharmaceutical sales, pulling in about $75,000 a year, which was decent. I'm an HVAC technician, making around $55,000. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Every July, my family has this annual reunion. It's nothing fancy, just a relaxed weekend at my grandma Dorothy's old farmhouse. We'd have potluck dinners, play card games, and catch up with cousins. Veronica came the first year we dated, and it was an experience. She spent the whole time glued to her phone, complaining about the heat, the bugs, and what she called boring old people stories. Last year, she just flat out refused to go. This year, when I mentioned it was coming up, she didn't even bother to look up from her iPad. Your family reunion is boring. I'm not going. I tried to explain. It's just one weekend. Grandma Dorothy specifically asked about you. She rolled her eyes. Your grandmother can barely remember my name. Besides, I have that spa weekend with Brittany and Jade. The spa weekend she'd been planning for months with her 2 best friends, who honestly treated me like I was invisible whenever they came over. No problem, I said, and I actually meant it. If she didn't want to spend time with my family, I wasn't going to force her. What I didn't tell her was that Grandma Dorothy had been calling me more often lately, asking about old memories, wanting to hear about my work, my life. She'd been sick with heart problems, but seemed to be doing better. And yes, she specifically asked if that girl who doesn't like cornbread was coming. That was Veronica. Grandma remembered everything. The reunion itself was different that year, quieter. Grandma Dorothy looked frilier, but her mind was as sharp as ever. On Saturday evening, while everyone else was inside playing cards, she pulled me aside, and we sat on the porch swing. "Tommy," she said, still calling me that childhood nickname. "You're a good boy. Always were. Fixed my kitchen sink when you were 12, remember?" I remembered. I made a huge mess, but she'd been so proud. You got a good head for fixing things, and for knowing what's worth fixing and what ain't. She patted my hand, her wedding ring loose on her thin finger. "That girl of yours. She thinks we're boring. Grandma. She just had other plans I tried to defend. But Dorothy wasn't having it. Boy, I got 2 master's degrees and ran a construction company for 30 years. I ain't boring. I'm selective about who deserves my interesting." A few weeks later, Grandma Dorothy passed away peacefully in her sleep. Veronica's response when I called her, "Crying from the hospital? Oh no, that's sad. But at least she was old, right?" It was her time. I drove to the funeral alone. Veronica had a crucial client dinner she couldn't miss. The will reading was yesterday. I thought I might get Grandma's old pickup truck, maybe some tools from Grandpa's workshop. What I wasn't expecting was for her lawyer, Mr. Garrison, to hand me an envelope with my name on it. Inside was a handwritten letter and a copy of her will. The letter, and I'm paraphrasing some parts, read, "Tommy, if you're reading this, I'm probably giving St. Peter a hard time about the air conditioning up here. I want you to know I've been watching you these past years. You work hard, you're loyal, and you've got your grandpa's gift for fixing things. I'm leaving you the farmhouse and the land, 42 acres, plus what's left of my savings and investments. Use it wisely. Maybe that girl of yours will think we're less boring when she sees what Boring built. Or maybe you'll realize what your grandpa told me 50 years ago. Money doesn't change people. It just shows you who they really were all along. Love, Grandma Dorothy." The estate was valued at approximately $800,000. The farmhouse and land alone were worth about $500,000, with developers sniffing around that area for years. The rest was in savings, bonds, and a surprisingly robust investment portfolio. My Uncle Richard got $50 and some family heirlooms. My Aunt Diane got $50 plus Grandma's jewelry. A few other cousins got smaller amounts, but the overwhelming bulk went to me. I sat in my truck in the parking lot for an hour, just staring at the papers, my world completely upside down. Then I drove home. Veronica was on the couch with Jade and Brittany, wine glasses everywhere, laughing at something on TV. "Hey, babe," she said without looking up. "How was the lawyer thing? Did you get that old truck?" "Yeah, something like that." I mumbled and went to bed early. I needed to think, needed to process. Grandma Dorothy had changed my entire life, and the woman I'd been with for 3 years couldn't even remember she'd died. Then, this morning, everything changed again. Mr. Garrison had filed the will with the probate court, standard procedure. What he didn't expect was for some local reporter covering a different story to see the filing, recognize the farmhouse address, and connect the dots. Apparently, there'd been a big development deal trying to buy that land for months. The headline in the local paper screamed, "Local HVAC tech inherits prime development land worth $500,000. It went online. My phone started blowing up, old high school friends, distant relatives, everyone suddenly wanted to catch up. But the most interesting reaction came from my living room. "Tommy," Veronica shrieked, her voice cutting through the house like a knife. "What the hell is this?" She was holding her phone, shoving the article in my face. Jade and Brittany were behind her, eyes wide, mouths agape. "Why didn't you tell me?" $800,000. "It was yesterday. I'm still processing," I said, trying to stay calm. "Processing? You're processing? We've been together 3 years, and you didn't immediately tell me. We just became rich." The we. Interesting word choice. "I needed time to think," I replied. "Think about what?" "Oh my God, we can quit our jobs. We can travel. We can buy that Mercedes I've been wanting." She was practically bouncing off the walls. We, this is my inheritance," I stated, my voice firm. "From my grandmother. The grandmother whose funeral you couldn't attend." She actually laughed. A harsh, disbelieving laugh. "Are you seriously going to be petty about that? I had to work, and now I don't." Brittany chimed in, practically high-fiving Veronica. "Girl, you better lock that down. Put a ring on it before he runs off with some gold digger." The irony was so thick, you could cut it with a knife. I stood up. "I'm going to stay at a hotel tonight. I need space to think." Veronica's face went from ecstatic to dangerous in a split second. "Don't you dare walk out that door, Thomas Mitchell. We're a couple. Your money is our money. We're not married, Veronica." I countered. 3 years might as well be married. "Common law," she shouted, furious. "Not in this state," I said. I'd already looked it up. "We don't have common law marriage here." I grabbed a bag and walked out. As I was getting in my truck, I heard Jade yell, "You better get a lawyer, girl. He can't just keep all that money." I checked into a Comfort Inn and turned off my phone. Tomorrow, I was meeting with Mr. Garrison to discuss the estate transfer and, more importantly, protecting it. By the way, if you're still with me, make sure to hit subscribe. More unbelievable stories are coming. The entitlement escalation that followed was something else entirely. Day 1 after I left, Veronica called 73 times. Her texts range from, "Baby, please come home. We need to talk about our future," to "You're being selfish. I deserve half after supporting you for 3 years. My dad knows a lawyer." Supporting me? We split everything 50-50, and she made more than me. Day 2, she got creative. She showed up at my work with lunch. My coworker Steve gave me a heads up, so I went out the back. She waited 2 hours. My boss finally told her to leave, or he'd call the cops. But day 3, yesterday, is when it got truly interesting. I met with Mr. Garrison and then a financial advisor he recommended. We set up a trust, moved the liquid assets, started the paperwork to transfer the property. Solid legal protection. I went back to the house to get my stuff, figuring Veronica would be at work. Nope. She was there with her parents, Robert and Denise. They'd driven 3 hours to ambush me. Robert started immediately. "Tom, let's be reasonable here. You and Veronica have built a life together. This inheritance should be seen as a blessing for both of you." "Robert, with all due respect," I reply, my voice calm but firm, Your daughter told me my family was boring. She couldn't be bothered to spend one weekend with them. Denise jumped in. People say things they don't mean. She was stressed with work. She went to a spa that weekend. Veronica started crying, big, theatrical tears. I loved your grandmother. I'm grieving too. I couldn't help it. You met her twice in 3 years. You called her that old lady who smells like mothballs. I was joking, she wailed. Robert tried a different angle. Look, Tom, if you're going to be this selfish, at least consider what Veronica has invested in this relationship. Time, emotion, her youth. Her youth. She's 29, not 92. She's invested the same as me, I said. We both put in time. We both paid our share. That doesn't entitle her to my inheritance. Then Veronica played what she thought was her ace. I'm pregnant. I actually laughed. A real, genuine laugh. No, you're not. How do you know? She snapped, the tears instantly gone. Because you had your period last week. You sent me to the store for tampons. Her parents looked utterly confused. Denise whispered, Veronica, is this true? The tears stopped instantly. Fine, but I could be pregnant. We talked about kids. You said kids were, and I quote, dream killers that ruin your body and your bank account. I started loading my stuff into the truck. Box by box, they followed me, all three talking at once. This is financial abuse. We'll sue. You can't just abandon her. What will people think? As I loaded the last box, Veronica grabbed my arm. If you leave, we're done forever. I won't take you back when you realize your mistake. I know you're really choosing money over love. No, I said, looking her straight in the eye. I'm choosing respect over entitlement. My grandmother's dying wish over your spa weekends. The family you called boring over the woman who couldn't be bothered to show up. I left. I blocked all three of them before I even hit the highway. But they weren't done. Oh no. What came next was a full-blown desperation scramble. It started with a letter from a lawyer. Not a good lawyer, mind you. Some strip mall attorney named Gerald Finch who spelled my name wrong 3 times in 2 pages. The gist: Veronica was seeking equitable distribution of shared assets and compensation for domestic partnership contributions. I forwarded it to Mr. Garrison, who actually chuckled on the phone. Mr. Mitchell, this is what we call a fishing expedition. He's hoping you'll panic and settle. I'll handle it. His response was beautiful. 1 page, citing state law, precedent, and the fact that 1, we were never married. 2, never had combined finances. 3, the inheritance was specifically excluded from marital property, even if we had been married. And 4, she had no standing whatsoever. He also included a cease and desist regarding further contact. That should have been the end. It wasn't. Veronica's next move was to call my mother, my sweet, conflict-averse mother who just wanted everyone to get along. Mom called me crying. Tommy, Veronica says you've become cruel since you got the money, that you've changed. Maybe you should give her something just to keep the peace. Mom, I said gently. Did she tell you she refused to come to Grandma Dorothy's funeral? She said she wasn't invited. Mom, she was invited. She had a spa day instead. A long pause. Then that little witch. My mother doesn't swear, so which was basically her dropping an F-bomb. Then came the really stupid move. Veronica went on social media, posted this long thing about how money changes people and how greed destroys love, with all these vague references that anyone who knew us would understand were about me. The comments were interesting. Some of her friends rallied around her. But then my cousin Angela, who'd been at the funeral, commented, "Didn't you skip Dorothy's funeral for a spa day?" Just checking. The post got deleted within an hour. But the peak desperation came yesterday. I was at the farmhouse, meeting with a contractor about some repairs, when a car pulled up. Veronica got out, but she wasn't alone. She had some guy with her, tall, muscular, looked like he hit the gym every day and twice on Sunday. Tom, she said, all casual. This is Brad, my new boyfriend. Brad looked uncomfortable as hell. Good for you, I said, and went back to talking with the contractor. She raised her voice. Aren't you jealous? Don't you care that I've moved on? Veronica, I sighed. You're at my grandmother's house with some random dude trying to make me jealous. The only person who should be embarrassed here is Brad. Brad mumbled something about waiting in the car. You can't just ignore me, she screamed. We were together for 3 years. The contractor, an older guy named Jim, looked at her and said, "Ma'am, you need to leave. This is private property." "It should be my property too," she retorted. Jim pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the sheriff." "Tom, you want to press trespassing charges." Veronica ran back to the car. As they drove off, I could see her yelling at Brad, who looked like he was questioning all his life choices. Last night, I got a text from an unknown number. "This is Brad. Sorry about today. She said you were stalking her and she needed protection. I'm out. Good luck." Man, this morning, Veronica's dad called. I almost didn't answer, but figured, let's see where this goes. "Tom, you win," he said, his voice defeated. "We'll call off the lawyer. Veronica's moving back in with us. Just, can you at least cover her portion of the lease for the next few months? She can't afford it alone. The lease she's not even on for the house I was already planning to handle through the end of the term because I'm not vindictive. Just done. I'll pay through the end of the lease, Robert. 2 months, then she needs to figure it out. That's fair. Thank you. And Tom, I'm sorry about your grandmother. She sounded like a remarkable woman. She was, I said. I thought I was done updating, but the last 2 weeks provided an ending I couldn't have scripted better. First, some good news. I've started fixing up the farmhouse. Nothing fancy yet. New roof, updated kitchen, fixing the porch. Jim, the contractor, introduced me to his daughter, Emma, who runs an architectural salvage business. She's been helping me restore the place while keeping its character. She's smart, funny, and when I mentioned the reunion drama, she just said, anyone who thinks family stories are boring isn't listening right. We're taking it slow, but it's really nice talking to someone who just gets it. Now, for the Veronica finale. Remember that development company that wanted Grandma's land? They reached out, offered $750,000 for just the back 30 acres, leaving me the house and 12 acres around it. I was considering it when I got a call from Robert. "Tom," he said, his voice strained. "I hate to ask, but did Veronica ever mention anything about a finder's fee?" "What?" It turns out Veronica had contacted the development company, claiming she was my domestic partner and negotiating on my behalf. She told them she could convince me to sell for a 5% consultation fee, $37,500. She'd even sent them photos of us together as proof of our relationship. The development company, doing their due diligence, had found out we weren't together and called Robert because they suspected fraud, wanted to verify before potentially involving law enforcement. "Tom, I'm mortified," Robert said. "We had no idea she was doing this. What do you want me to do?" I could hear the desperation in his voice. "Whatever you think is right. She's our daughter, but this has to stop." I called the development company, explained the situation, told them she had no authority to negotiate for me. They apologized, said they'd withdraw any dealings with her. I didn't press charges. I felt like that would be excessive. But I did sell the back acreage to a different company for $800,000. Here's the twist. I donated $50,000 to the local historical society in Grandma Dorothy's name. They're creating a scholarship fund for young women in construction and engineering. The announcement was in the paper today. Veronica saw it. I know because she texted from her mom's phone. "You could have given me that money. I actually knew you. That charity didn't." I didn't respond, but Denise did. She sent me a screenshot of her reply to her own daughter. "Veronica, stop. That charity will help young women who actually show up, unlike you." Brutal, but deserved. This really is the last update. Promise. The farmhouse is almost done. Emma and I have been spending more time together. She's teaching me about restoration while I try to fix her terrible coffee maker. She even came to last week's family dinner at my aunt's place. She fit right in, laughed at Uncle Richard's terrible jokes, helped Cousin Angela with her homework. When my aunt brought out photo albums, Emma asked to hear every single story. But this update isn't just about my new relationship. It's about a letter I got yesterday. It was from Veronica. Handwritten. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting instantly. "Tom, by the time you read this, I'll have moved to another state. Dad got me a job with a friend's company. Fresh start. I wanted you to know that I get it now. Not the money. I mean, I get why you didn't share it, but that's not what I mean. I've been going through old photos, packing, Found one from that first reunion. Your grandmother was teaching me to play gin rummy. I was actually smiling. Really smiling, not posing. I'd forgotten that afternoon. She told me about meeting your grandfather, about building their business, about raising your dad. I was interested. I was engaged. Somewhere along the way, I decided your family was beneath me. Decided their stories were boring. Their traditions were outdated. Their love was something to endure rather than embrace. The money didn't change you. It revealed me. And I don't like what I see. Your grandmother left you more than money. She left you proof that you knew something I didn't. That showing up is more valuable than showing off. That boring Sunday dinners create more wealth than spa weekends. That family isn't about impressing people. It's about being present for them. I won't apologize for the lawyer or the lies. We both know they were desperate moves by a desperate person. But I'm sorry for that text, the one about your family being boring. They weren't boring. I was just too self-important to listen. I hope you keep the farmhouse in the family. I hope you fill it with people who understand its value. I hope you find someone who sees what your grandmother saw in those Sunday dinners and summer reunions. I hope you find someone who shows up. Veronica. P.S. Tell your mom the potato salad recipe she gave me 3 years ago is the only thing I make that my dad actually compliments. It's the one family tradition of yours I kept. I sat on Grandma Dorothy's porch, reading that letter twice. Then I folded it up, put it in the desk drawer, and went back to sanding the railings. Emma came by later with coffee and sandwiches. While we ate, she asked about the reunion coming up next month, the first one in the farmhouse since Grandma passed. Will it be weird? She asked. Without your grandmother there? Maybe a little, I admitted. But she left us the place to fill it with new memories. Can't do that if we don't show up. Want company. Always. We sat there on the porch watching the sunset over the backfield. The same porch where Grandma Dorothy told me about knowing what's worth fixing and what ain't. She was right. As usual, some things can't be fixed because they were never really broken, just incompatible. And some things are worth fixing because they were built on solid foundations. The farmhouse is the latter. It just needed someone to show up and do the work. As for Veronica, well, Grandpa was right too. Money doesn't change people. It just shows you who they really were all along. I'm keeping the farmhouse. I'm keeping the traditions. And I'm keeping the people who show up. That's all Grandma Dorothy ever asked for anyway. The reunion was amazing, by the way. Emma made Grandma Dorothy's cornbread recipe, found it in her handwritten cookbook, and it was perfect. My mom cried, the good kind of tears. The scholarship fund has already selected its first recipient, a 19-year-old woman studying construction management. And Robert sent me a text last week. Veronica is doing well at her new job. She joined a local volunteer group. Maybe she learned something after all. Maybe she did. So, tell me what you think. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? And have you ever had an inheritance completely change the dynamic of a relationship? I really want to know your thoughts in the comments below.